Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, TheRumpledOne, coming to you Sunday, May 8th. The year's 2022. Let's talk trading. Weekly open and gap. As always, these videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. So let's take a quick look here at the weekly charts. And we can see we've got a bunch that haven't filled the gap. The pound did fill the gap. It gapped up and it's gone down. In fact, we are 66 pips below the weekly open and 10 off the weekly low. So it looks like the pound's continuing its downward trajectory. Quick look at the month, 297 below the open, 12 off the low, and 357 off the high. We're putting in the opening range for the week. And we are below the opening range for the month. And we are way below the opening range for the year. Speaking of the year, we are 1,243 pips below the yearly open and 725 below the yearly midpoint. Now, there's some people thinking the pound's going to go back up to, I think they said 134 from here. So we'll just have to wait and see. I don't know if it's going to be, or when it's going to happen. They say by the end of the year. It's just going to be a wait and see, that's for sure. We had an inside bar on the daily 5 days ago. We're 188 pips below that inside bar low. As you can see with all the blue and gray, we definitely have a handful of inside bars on the daily, weekly, and monthly. Now, I received an email from a trader that was asking about the inside bars. And I guess when do you stop trading them? In other words, you see an inside bar happens and then it goes up and comes back in. How often or when is those inside bars no longer any good? Well, there's a couple of ways to answer that. I usually take the most recent inside bar, and inside bars are just the high and low. When that bar's high is lower than the previous bar's high, and then that bar's low is higher than the previous bar's low. That's why it's called an inside bar. Well, those lines, I say you can trade them until you get a new inside bar, then you trade those inside bar lines. But they're simple horizontal lines. You can trade them, whenever. I just trade price crossing the horizontal line. There's nothing else to add. It's just a level on the chart, and if price crosses that level, you take the trade. Or if for some reason you don't want to take it, you don't take it. But there's no further analysis needed. And it keeps it simple. For the range right now, we are 9 hours into the trading day, and we have 3 pairs over 100. Now I notice that they're New Zealand pairs and they're Aussie pairs, and they're also Euro pairs and pound pairs. So I'm wondering, there must be something between pound and Europe and Australia, New Zealand. And looking here at the buy zone, you can see there was no buy triggered, but we had 3 shorts triggered. This first one probably doesn't count because the spread's usually like 10 pips or 20 pips. It's just ridiculous that first hour. I guess they don't want anybody to trade. Now, if you look to the left, you see there's this big return bar. Price is already returned to that. But you can see right here, we've broke below and then back above this low point here. It's just something to notice. So we have 77 pips of range. which is more than enough for rat trades. So rat reversals are in effect. And we're 17 pips off the low at the moment. Notice the smart rat. It looks like there's a difference of about 11 pips, or we're 11 pips off the low here for the smart rat as opposed to the normal 15. That's the green rat, but the red rat is pretty much the same as the original rat. Notice we haven't hit the weekly pivot, but we did take out the daily pivot here. So near pivot point bias is long, near S1 bias is long, and right now we are just actually a couple pips below S1, calling for a long bias. Now, if you look at this chart, we went below yesterday's low and back into it. So that means we're in the lower wick zone, and what do we know? Price doesn't like staying in the wick zone. So as mentioned on that previous chart, we took out today's pivot, but we haven't hit the weekly pivot, and we haven't hit the monthly pivot. And as I just mentioned, we are in that lower wick zone. We've already left it once. Actually, we left it once on the bottom and once on the top here using the H1. And we know price doesn't like staying in the wick zone, but about 1 out of 4 times it will stay in the wick zone based on statistics. And since the wick zone is definitely bigger than the candle body, this might be one of those days where it stays in the wick zone, or closes in the wick zone, I should say. And we analyze the weekly and monthly ranges to date last week. So we've had 3 big weeks in a row. So we'll have to wait and see if this week continues that trend, or if we might have a compressed week. Looking at the ranges here over the past few hours, we've only had let's see, we've been at 9 hours, so only had a couple of ranges over 20 pips. But once again, trading the Walmart lines or the sweet spot lines usually wait till the London and New York sessions to make those trades. Lower high, higher low can be traded pretty much any time. You can see we had a trigger off a 3 ball, 4.8 pips right now, but it looks like it would have returned maybe a dozen pips if you'd taken that trade and stayed in it. But notice this is something that seems to happen more often than not. You see the this lower high here, how price will go up, come back down into it, and then take off. If you look here, we had this lower high, price went up, but came back down and then took off. That's something I've noticed. And so what that tells me is you take this first trade, you take your 2, 3, 4 pips, you be happy. You might get another chance, and most likely you will get another chance to enter. Take that second entry, and then if it breaks this high, let that candle close. But don't give it, don't let it turn into a loser if it's coming back down, and then take your money off the table. Does that always happen? No, it doesn't, because you can look right here and see it broke that lowest high and just shot up. But you can see here, it went up. At lowest high, take the money, gave you a second chance, but this was heading down. And once again, if you just look at some simple things, we're making lower lows, we're making lower highs, and you just say, well, is there more lower lows or more higher lows? What's it doing? And so here, it was oscillating, but it kept making these lower highs. Well, lower highs, lower lows, prices going down. Higher lows, higher highs, prices going up. I mean, it's one of those things. You can say it's easy to see in hindsight, but these type of patterns play out. Here's another one. You can see here we've got a flat bottom with lower highs, and then finally it just breaks. I mean, I think that's a wedge or pennant. I don't know what they call it, but it's just one of those things where once you have enough screen time, you start to see these things, and then you can react accordingly. And you basically just trade what you see. And once again, you can take these breaks at the horizontal lines, however you want to put them on your chart. A quick look here at the monthly. This was the low by month. We just put in another low here at 2276, which is still the next to the bottom, where the bottom was 2020 here, the year 2020, 2074. We don't have anything lower. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Okay. Let's set this. Go just take it. Once again, just show the range by month. 369. And you can see here, we did have a 303. But I believe this month will probably range a little bit more. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Here, looking at the M30 chart. And once again, I like looking at the M30 because a lot of times at the bottom of the hour, we can get price reversals. And so what do I see here? I see higher lows. I see higher highs. It's telling me price is going up. So I would look for longs until we start to get a lower high. That's how I would trade it. Got the Bambino flex indicator saying looking for a long. And it's since the we don't have S, actually we've got S1 here where we got R1 is above the high. So this is saying that price should come up and hit that high, break that high. And we'll have to see if that plays out or not. That's a 100 pip move, which could happen. As I speak, price is broken below this high. And the M30 is red. We'll see what happens. And one other thing I've observed, especially trading some of these methods, looking just to make a few pips, is try to get in at the open price of whatever time frame, candle, bar you're trading. So the open price here is 22.79.6. So if you want to go long or short, that's the price you want to get because it's going to range away from the open. So even if you were just looking to make a couple of pips, you get in at that open price, probably you'll get you 2 pips because you see here we had a 77 to the bottom and 88 above. That would have been 2 pips or more either way. So that's just something that I've been noticing. So fellow traders, I hope you had a fun and safe weekend. I hope you have a profitable trading day and week. So remember, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and